Thank you very much. Good morning. And I know it's not a daily occurrence for you to see a businessman delegation, especially on the Hill. And yes, we are doing business under occupation. And yes, we will continue to do business under occupation. And usually when the private sector speaks, governments listen. The big problem here is we don't know which government we are talking about. More than ever, the private sector is, and specifically applies to Palestine, is the spine of our nation-building endeavors. It is doing its utmost at an extremely high cost, and it is actually as simple as that. Let me give you a few examples on what's happening in our daily life and try to superimpose it if it were in the United States. Imagine yourself going from K Street to Alexandria and you encounter at least 50 checkpoints and you have to do the trip via Fort Washington. Imagine you are performing your daily routine and you have no 3G for a GPS to get you wherever you want to go, or see your email, or help a young engineer doing his startup in the IC field or any other field. Imagine you need an expat, maybe a Palestinian American or a Canadian Palestinian. You need him to come over and help us out with his expertise and so on, and we can get him because of access restrictions. Imagine also here being in Washington and Canada or Mexico, hijacking the news owed to you as a government or a private sector, because it has been basically hijacked, and which will impact paying salaries of the public sector. Think then of what's happening then to the economic situation and the daily life of the citizens. Imagine also that how you cannot import some basic industrial product of equipment commonly used in an industrial company because it is claimed to be of dual use, and that applies actually almost to every product we deal with on a daily basis. Well, I mean, my colleagues here will be talking about what are the consequential impact of all these events or stories I just told you, and they will go into some more detail. Now, considering the fact, and it is a fact actually, it's a strong fact that our own resources are not under our control or managed by us, we see no new investments, no new jobs in a market where unemployment can reach 75% among graduated women, for it, just as one example, and almost 30% across the board. What can be done today so that Israel has its required and must security and Palestine does not evolve into a second Somaliland? And if that's the objective, well, they're doing a great job. And we as a private sector, we need a number of issues, and I'm addressing here the audience for those who are especially on the Hill. We ask you to help us in having Israel lift the restrictions on developing Area C. Area C represents 61% of the West Bank under full Israeli occupation, inhabited by 600,000 settlers. And there should be no argument about the number, because we're talking about Area C as defined in the Oslo Agreement and as recognized by the international community. If it were to happen, the GDP, I mean lifting restriction, the GDP of the Palestinians will grow by 50%. Yes, 50%. That should help, I mean, assuming all this will happen, you can see the impact on US taxpayers. Instead of sending us money, they probably could focus on improving the conditions of the local schools. And also, what we are saying, the request or the point I want to make here, that we need to stop the redlining. For those who are familiar with the civil liberties movement would understand that we should also stop what we call Jewish roads and Jewish buses only, and this is really does not speak for what is claimed to be the only democracy in the Middle East. What does it all of that mean, and what is needed? There should be no restrictions on economic activities in Area C. This potential, as I said before, is enormous. These restrictions have limited private investments to the tune of 15% of GDP, where it should have been at least 25%. A quarter of our workforce, as a result also of that, is in public sector. Some of the benefits of developing Area C are major. Access to agricultural land, which will require also the needed water resources, will have a 7% increase in our GDP. The Dead Sea minerals, no reason we shouldn't have any access. That could even contribute to over $2 billion to our GDP. Tourism, many restrictions. The potential of the Dead Sea as a tourist area is also could be phenomenal. On the telecom area, as I said, I mean, we had a beautiful poster in Palestine when President Obama visited us, and we told him, please don't bring your smartphone with you because we have no 3G. And it's probably would sound unbelievable to those who are living in the first world or even in the developing world to see that we still don't have 3G. We hardly have a 2G. And as I've said, all of these issues need to be addressed quickly. The status quo is not in the interest of neither the United States, nor Israel, nor the Palestinians, and nor on the regional. I mean, you know the price we are paying for what's happening today in the region. I leave the floor now to my colleagues, and I thank you very much.